So the next section is identifying trig ratios, all six. So clicking on that, clicking on it. There we go. So in triangle DEF, the measure of angle F is 90 degrees, ED is 25, DF is 24, FE is 7. What ratio represents the sine of D? So this one is pretty much the same thing. It's just that they also like type out the information for some reason. So don't get overwhelmed by all of those things because all those things are already labeled on this picture. So the thing we want to focus on is just what ratio represents the sine of D. So we're just looking for sine angle D. So here is angle D. Always picking the bottom right corner. I don't know. But if that one is our angle, our reference angle, then this is our hypotenuse. That is your opposite. And this is your adjacent. Okay? And so how did this mark it? Erase. I can't erase it. Oh well. We're just gonna have to deal with that weird mark. Okay, so sine of D is equal to, according to SOHCAHTOA, the first part, it should be the opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite, 7, over the hypotenuse, 25. And so 7 over 25 should be your answer. So we finally got a sine. I know in the last section we did a cosine and a tangent, but now we have a sine. So yay. Any questions on this one? Okay. Cool. I'm gonna search for a secant, cosecant, cotangent. Cool, secant. Wonderful. They actually gave it to me. I feel like half the time when I'm looking for something, they don't give it to me for like 10 times. Anyways, so all of this information is already written on our triangle. What we want to find is the ratio for secant of Q. So let's take a look at Q. And for the first time, finally, they gave us a reference angle somewhere else. So this is our reference angle. Remember that the hypotenuse doesn't change no matter what your reference angle is. The hypotenuse is always the longest side. And then from your reference angle, the farthest one is the opposite. And the leftover, the one that's next to it is the adjacent. So here we have our opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse all labeled, and we want secant. So let me just first of all write SOHCAHTOA here. So SOHCAHTOA tells us our sine, cosine, tangent. However, you need to remember for secant, I guess I could write it like that. Secant is 1 over the cosine. Wait, yeah. And then you can also remember that cosecant is 1 over the sine. And that cotangent is 1 over the tangent. So if you don't remember this, or if you don't remember writing this in your notes last time, write this in your notes now because it's important. So secant, cosecant, cotangent are those reciprocals. I'll give you guys some time to write it. Okay, so secant, like we said, is 1 over cosine. So let me write that down. Secant of Q is 1 over cosine of Q. Oops, that's not a Q. There we go. So cosine, according to SOHCAHTOA, is usually adjacent over hypotenuse, right? But if you have 1 over cosine, that's the reciprocal of cosine. That means instead of adjacent over hypotenuse, you're going to flip it, hypotenuse over adjacent. So all it means when you have 1 over cosine is instead of adjacent over hypotenuse, you flip it now. 1 over cosine means you flip it. So you have hypotenuse over adjacent. So any questions on that part? Okay. If you do have a question, feel free to interrupt me. So we're going to do the hypotenuse, 53, over the adjacent, 45. And I believe this is not simplifiable, so let's enter this in, 53 over 45. But before I do, any questions? Okay. 53 over 45. Okay, so we just did a secant. Let's look for another one that's like a cosecant or something. Or like a cotangent. I'm looking for cosecant, cotangent. I'm gonna lose all my points here. Okay, cosecant. Yay! I only lost like half my points. Okay, so once again, all of this information is, all that information is already labeled. We want to know the cosecant of P. So let me remind you what I had over here for cosecant. Cosecant is equal to 1 over the sine. And according to SOHCAHTOA, I should have just written the SO. So according to the SO and the SOHCAHTOA, sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. And then let's label our hypotenuse, which doesn't change no matter what. But then our reference angle is P. So here is the angle we are talking about. Then here's the opposite on the other side. And here's our adjacent. And so knowing that cosecant of P is equal to 1 over the sine, right? Then we're going to have to flip this. Opposite over hypotenuse will become hypotenuse over opposite. Any questions on that? Okay. So then let's put it together. 53 hypotenuse over opposite 28. So 53 over 28. Okay. And instead of searching for a tangent or a cotangent, I'm just going to write it out for you in like empty space. So we remember that cotangent is equal to 1 over tangent. So if you know that tangent, according to TOA of SOHCAHTOA, which I wrote wrong. There you go, SOHCAHTOA. According to SOHCAHTOA, tangent is opposite over adjacent. Then now we know that cotangent, which is the reciprocal of that, should be adjacent over opposite. Okay, so instead of searching for a third example and just wasting your time, I'm just giving you the formula here. It's just adjacent over hypotenuse, and I'm sure you guys will be able to apply it. And if you guys need help, just let me know. I totally missed a private message like 3 minutes ago. Can you let me know which picture you want me to go back to, and I will. Is it the one with like the one where I said, oh, I'll give you guys some time to write like secant, cosecant, and cotangent? Is that the one? I'm so sorry. Okay, I will do that. Let me end this video and then I'll do that.